Morning, Adam. I just wanted to ask, in general, after 15 practices, how much better do you feel the defense is at understanding what the expectations are for them than they were at the beginning of spring?
Significantly. I think, it's accumulation of things now. So since, the end of last season until now, I think it wasn't season ended, it stopped and restart. It's been more of a continuation, mostly because of the amount of people we have back on that side of the ball that have played significant snaps. So, I think it's continued. And as it's continued to improve. And it's at a point now that I'm very confident in the group that we have.
Ira?
Hey, Coach, for the guys that came in January, like the early enrollees and also the transfers, like just how valuable are these next few months building on what they did in the spring?
Yeah, I think, Ira, to have mid-year enrollees come in, transfers or freshmen. Obviously, transfers are a little bit further ahead, but physically developed. But to see those guys come in, they go through tour duty. So that's to help build standards of operation and, just to get everybody on the same page. And then you got 15 practices. Now what that helps them do is, now from a coaching standpoint, you don't have to start at step one. Some positions are at 3 or 4 or 5, whatever the step that is. But now also the players can go back and watch themselves in cut-ups. I think, it was, I've been at a couple new places now, but when you get to a place and you're constantly showing them other people, that's important because it's still same as. I mean, you watch NFL cut-ups all the time. But when it's actually them doing the things you told them to do and they're having success or they have to fix techniques or outcomes, I think it's a little bit more impactful. And that's what we're seeing, being able to get these guys in early. I mean, shoot, every defensive player was here. And so that's really helped us. It helped us with depth in the spring. And then, I think we're really fortunate that I think a lot of these first year players were much further ahead than I anticipated they would be.
Chris?
On the defensive line group, specifically defensive end, how have those young guys, Patrick Payton, Byron Turner, even some of the new faces like Dante Anderson, Aaron Hester, how have they done with coming along? And anybody flashed you this spring that you feel like maybe is ahead of schedule?
I don't want to know if any of them are ahead of schedule, but I mean, I'll talk about each one of them if you want me to. It just might add some clarity. I think Pat's probably the furthest along right now. He's playing with good anticipation. His body's caught up with his development. He's a smart player. I think he's really doing a good job. Byron missed all season last year. He was out. So this was really brand new for him. This was really his first time since the first practice in August that he's really gotten to a stance and tried to execute. So, but I did see a lot of things out of him that we're excited about. George Wilson had the furthest to go from a development standpoint. I thought his finish to spring really will carry some momentum into the summer. Dante Anderson definitely shined for us. He's still young in a lot of things that he's trying to get accomplished from a technique standpoint, but he belongs here. And then Aaron Hester, he showed some really good things in some one-on-one with some pass rush. We've just got to get him playing. He's not the longest player, but he does have quickness. He's physical. He's smart. We just got to get him playing with a little bit more technique with his length, with his hands, just so he can get off blocks better. And, he was getting covered up a little bit there in the spring, but, I think it's a good group. We just went over all the guys that were either true freshmen or redshirt freshmen. And, that's a good number of players. And, but they all have, definitely something that I think we can build on, whether it's going to be in a limited role or if it's going to be in a bigger role, getting that top 4 to 5 group and be able to play a lot of football for us.
Aslan?
Hey, Coach, in this day and age, more teams are using less linebackers or having less linebackers on the field. Just what does it look like for a defense to have better linebacker play like in this sort of day and age? And where do you feel you're at on that level of the defense right now?
We're better than we've ever been here. And, listen, other than maybe, Emmett Rice, who played our first year, everybody else that was here 3 years ago playing is still playing. Or they've gotten beaten out and we have new players. But like from Kalen DeLoach to Steven Dix to Amari Gaynor to DJ Lundy, 3 years ago, they were all playing and now they're still playing and they've gotten better. And so we're seeing that growth from that group. That's been really exciting. I think obviously Kalen DeLoach has probably come the furthest. Amari's getting better. DJ Lundy showed significant improvement. And I thought Steven Dix really had probably, the last 3 to 4 practices started to play a lot faster. And, that was good to see. Then we brought an addition in Tatum. And I think Tatum, is definitely going to have an impact on this defense, next fall, somebody we're really excited about.
Ira?
I'm sure one of the tough things about playing guys when they're young and maybe not ready is that, people like me and this group and the fans will make judgments based on, what they look like as freshmen or sophomores. How do you guys as coaches help players through that, where maybe there's feelings in the, in social media or fan base or in the print media or digital media that they're at a certain level when they really haven't gotten to where they're going to be?
Yeah, I think it's part of, just in the landscape of college football, major college football, the NFL, or pro sports, it's part of it. Listen, there's times that you coach a great game and, you're a great coach. There's times you don't do a great job and you're the worst. And you just can't live on those, and, look at somebody like Akeem Dent. I mean, that's the one that, he's came in here, has been down, and now, he's playing his best football. And so, there are roller coasters of emotions that go on. But, if you could really just set, this is what the process of improvement looks like and stick to it and be consistent from a coaching standpoint, I think that can help. Like, listen, Kevin Noles came in as a true freshman and he played good football and he's going to get better. So, but there's going to be something that's going to come up where, it's going to be, he's going to have to overcome something. And then you have guys like Shaheem Brown who, played in 2 games minimally last year and showed signs, but really wasn't consistent enough that broke through in the safety group last year. But now, he's in that top group and he's somebody that's going to have a major impact. And so you take guys like that came in together. Duke Cooper started from game 5 on and played good football, and some meaningful snaps, some, in critical moments made plays. Kevin, from the first snap in Notre Dame all the way through the year, he averaged about 60 snaps a game. And then Shaheem barely played, if at all. And coming into this year, I see all 3 of them having a major impact. And so I think that can kind of paint a picture to your question without going into every player,
Sure.
Hey, Adam, I remember talking to you about Jared Verse after the first scrimmage, how fast a learner he was. You expected the second scrimmage to be better than the first. I think that was. And then the spring game again. I guess, how encouraged are you about where he is now compared to 15 practices ago? And I guess, what are you hoping he spends the next few months working on?
Jared, I think the day he got here and the work that he put in, he's been really consistent with effort. He's been really consistent with his physicality, his want to, and his energy level. We do have to clean up some things technique wise so that he can maximize all the tools that he has. He's super aggressive. And like I said, he's as fast, if not faster, than any defensive lineman I've coached from a speed standpoint. And those are all great things, but we do have to clean up some of just his line of scrimmage technique and how he's playing. But, with his personality and his attitude, that's what I'm excited most about here over those next 3 months as we lead into August. Just, the want to on Jared and, the ability that he possesses. And, he's a competitive person. And, I'm excited to coach somebody like that, because when you tell them that these are the things that need to get better, they want to hear that.
Ira?
It seems like, when a defense is struggling, like maybe early last year a little bit, sometimes there's a tendency to kind of simplify things a little bit. But now that you guys, the way you played in the second half of the season and the experience you have coming back, along with some of the transfers, do you sense that there'll be more freedom to maybe make more adjustments on the fly and maybe expand some different looks, just because you have that experience now?
Absolutely. And Ira, we did, I mean, once you realize kind of who you have from a personnel standpoint, once that really happened last year, we kind of settled into, okay, this is what we're going to be. And then when you start doing it really well, then you can start to build off of those things, but with the returning group that we had, we were able to grow. And, I think as a coach, I always feel a responsibility to make sure you're putting these guys in not only a position to succeed, that's easy to say, but that you're building their general football knowledge. And, there's coverages like we played one snap of cover 2 all last year, but it's part of the teaching of football. And it's part of the ability for them to develop their knowledge. And, we'll take concepts like that and make sure that we're teaching it, exposing them to it and teach them how to play it. And just the buy-in now of the understanding of, okay, this isn't just me remembering a call. I know coach is going to use this at some point. In this, they're buying and learning the techniques and how things fit together have been, at a very high level. Even as we go on, we put in certain, checks and built-ins that we'll have for the fall. We were able to do that in the spring. We were never able to do that in the last couple of springs. So, there's just a lot more comfortability with what we're telling them to do. Even the learning approach to how they're doing it, then my communication to them has gotten cleaner. And, as I've learned how the best way to serve them and get them playing to their best. And now there's a trust back and forth. And so, we've kind of developed the routine of how things are going to get taught, how things need to be learned, how it's received, and then how we're going to rep it out there.
Aslan?
I know you can't replace Jermaine and Kier, but there, I guess, has to be a plan in place to kind of to replace what they've were able to provide for you guys. Where are you at, I guess, in terms of that sort of journey and finding a pass rush? And will it just have to be maybe better secondary play can help out the pass rush? And how's that coming along?
Yeah, I mean, that's two questions there. I mean, the secondary is the secondary, the backers up front, will be significantly better inside. There's no question about that because everybody's back and everybody's better. So, I think that's going to happen. And I'm really excited about our tackle on our nose. I think that's a really good spot for us right now. And then, I thought Dennis Briggs was playing really good football, until he went down that Louisville game. But to add him to that mix out there, I think him and Kier have a lot of similarities, just in how they play. There's some differences, but I think there's more similarities. And then Derek McClendon's one of the most improved players we have on defense. We saw that. He's just stronger. He's more developed. His understanding is there. His physicality, all that is growing. Jared Verse is going to bring something here. There's no question about it. I think there's Leonard Warner, Patrick Payton, and then all the young guys I just went through. We're significantly deeper. So we'll be able to roll some spots, but also we're better. Derek's much better. Jared's the unproven commodity that we brought in that I think has above the line skill set that we'll be able to get through. So, those are some of the names that I think are part of it that we're going to start to build on what the production is going to look like up front. But I think we're significantly deeper up front right now. And, I think I really like the pieces that we have in the attitude and the mindset that's being developed up front. That started last year with Jermaine and Kier, and we're building on that.
Ira?
I know we asked you about Renardo earlier in the spring, but I was just, now that you've had the whole spring to see how he did going back to corner. How did you guys feel about that? How did he feel about it? And what do you think his potential is there?
Yeah, that's where he's going to play, and that's where he's going to stay. He showed. I mean, it's a good position for him. It's a pretty natural position for him. He's one of the most physical corners that we have in our program. Moves his feet, stays square, really good with his hands. I think we've got to clean up some top of the route stuff with him, but he had a couple sessions where he said, "Coach, can we sit down and just watch some one-on-ones together?" We did that one time, and his engagement is really strong. He wants to be really good. He started football games here. He just, he's gotten hurt, and it's really taken away from his career here at Florida State. He had 15 really good practices and something we're going to build on in the summer. But, we're going to the summer saying he's competing for playing time at corner, and he showed us enough that he's going to deserve to do that.
Aslan?
Coach, can you kind of like reflect on what you started with against Notre Dame week one in the secondary and where you're at now? I mean, Jamie Robinson kind of at home now at safety, first team all ACC. Omarion kind of comes off like gangbusters. Like you feel good about Renardo. Akeem has kind of emerged. Just has there ever been maybe like 1 year growth from one sort of segment that you've ever had in your career that's kind of come along as much as the secondary?
Well, I would start, I think, from where we were when we got here to where we are now with the defensive line. That was, I mean, they're all important, but that's the position that we addressed with the most numbers right away. And that's shown significant improvement. I think in the secondary now, with who we played last year, I know the addition of Greedy comes in, which will help us because I do think he'll have a major impact here, but just about everybody else is here and they're back. And then you're adding guys that didn't play much last year, like a Shaheem, that's much improved. I think we saw Akeem play his best football he has here at Florida State in the last 4 or 5 weeks, and that continued through the spring. You talked about Jamie, and then, between Renardo, coming on and Omarion coming on and the addition of Greedy and, I think it's building that way. Excited about the pieces, excited about the new pieces that we got coming into. I thought they showed that they've got a chance to help us with Azaria and Sam. So, it's just definitely some upside in that secondary right now. And, when we settled into some roles last year with Jarquez, with Pack, when he came in, solidified some things. So there's a lot of starts coming back in that secondary. And I feel like we've got them all in the right place now. Now it's the continuity of them playing with each other. And, that just happened for 15 practices because we were pretty healthy at that spot through spring. And so see that carry through the summer is exciting.
Aslan?
And then just, you obviously mentioned how good you feel about what you have at defensive tackle, I guess, namely Fabian and Robert. But Robert's just seen so much in his time at Florida State. Fabian's a guy that might have been able to kind of flirt with the NFL last year. Just what is it about those two guys you think that's going to be just such an impact for you this season?
Leadership. When you're a good player, and whatever the grade is for them, whether they're playing at B plus, A minus level at certain times, it's finding the little things that they need to continue to get better at, whether that's on the field, whether that's off the field, whether it's connecting with teammates. And I see that. I see great growth by both of them. I think they're playing their best football that they've had. Now they should be, but they are. And then, to see the growth of Malcolm Ray, Jarrett Jackson, those two played last year. They're back. And then, Josh Farmer, I kind of put him in the Shaheem mold. We thought we hit when we signed Josh, even after fall camp, same with Shaheem. They didn't play last year much, but they're playing like they will be playing right now in the spring. Josh is in that group that we just talked about with those top 4. Shaheem's with Jamie, he's with Akeem and playing good football. And so I just think it's just part of that depth that we're building at defensive tackle. And then the young guys, that really came on. I thought Daniel Lyons and Bishop Thomas did a really, really good job. They're as impressive as young defensive tackles physically that I've seen. And so, I feel good about what we have at returning. I feel good about what we brought in. And now it's just the continued development of that room and that front group that I think has some real impact playmaking too.
Okay. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys.
Recording